Hey, it's Candy. Did you know that I have a quiz to help coaches choose their niche? Yeah, I do. It's super popular and it has been taken more than 20,000 times. This is a fun quiz that takes you about 2 minutes to do, and it will probably give you way more clarity on choosing your best coaching niche. So now, whether you say niche or niche, it's going to work for you. And if you're a coach and you have been stuck in niche indecision, wondering what to do, then you should take my quiz and find out what you learn. You can take the quiz today at coachnichequiz.com. That's coachnichequiz.com. Okay, let's dive into this week's episode. Welcome to She Coaches Coaches. I'm your host, Candy Motzek, and I'm going to help you find the clarity, confidence, and courage to become the coach that you are meant to be. If you're a new coach, or if you've always wanted to be a life coach, then this is the place for you. We're going to talk all about mindset and strategies and how to, because step by step only works when you have the clarity, courage, and confidence to take action. Let's get started. Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of She Coaches Coaches. I am so glad you're here. I have got a really fun conversation that you're going to listen in on, and I'll tell you about my guest in just a moment. But what I wanted you to know is I've been doing this for a while, right? Like, I have been putting these podcast episodes out for a while, and I don't know if you really know this, but I actually do this for you. So whoever you are, on the treadmill with your earbuds in, are you driving the kids to school? Are you at the grocery store? Are you commuting to work? I just want you to know that I am talking to you directly. And so I hope you get that feeling when you're listening in. And what that also means is that I would love it if sometimes this was a two-way conversation. So what does that mean? I would love it if you would DM me on Instagram at Candy Motzek. Ask me your questions. Tell me your thoughts. How can I help you? I would love to hear from you. So that was just my little preamble. And now let me tell you about this lovely guest that we've got joining us. Her name is Sarah Walton, and she's a business coach and a sales expert. She's been featured on the Today Show, and she speaks at women's conferences all over the world. And she's helped hundreds of women start and grow businesses that they love. She works with a handful of private clients. She runs the Sales Mastermind and leads her exclusive Abundance Academy for Women in Business. Sarah's the voice behind the Game On Girlfriend podcast and the face of Sarah Uncut on YouTube, making her that go-to source for no-nonsense business coaching and real-life mind-blowing abundance. She grew up in a low-income household with a single mom, now helping moms turn their passion into a business that they love, that they can support their families with. Sarah's lived experience shows how women can powerfully change their lives and the lives of their families and communities. And through her successful coaching business, which she designed to put more money in the hands of more women, Sarah transitioned from being just another coach to being a change maker. And she fully believes that it is time to put more money in the hands of more women, and Sarah is all in. Sarah, listen, I am all in on that too. Welcome to the show. I am so glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Candy. I'm thrilled to be here with you. I can't wait to spend more time with you.
Yeah. Tell me how you got started, especially in this place of get more money in the hands of more women. I want to hear about that.
Yeah, it started. Okay, hang on to your hats and glasses because it started when I was 5. And I realized I wanted to dance. I was watching the Nutcracker on TV and I was like, I don't know what that is, but get me some of that. Right. And we were incredibly poor, really. And when I say that, people go, come on. No, we were really poor. Like there were times we had a half a loaf of bread that my mother had made from scratch and a jar of honey. The end. Like that was it. And so we didn't have money for dance lessons and those sorts of things. So I learned how to dance from MTV. Thank you, Janet Jackson and Paula Abdul. I'm forever in your debt. I love you. And if you don't know who those women are, go look them up and then start dancing with chairs and stuff. Anyway, I was so grateful for that. But then it came time for me to try out for the high school dance team. And I was so stinking excited because this was the thing I'd wanted forever. And I tried out working out in the basement, like bruises on my knees, the whole thing, right? And I made the team and I was so stinking excited in this tight-knit community in a little town called Sandy, Utah. And people were bringing me flowers. Everyone was so excited. And I was thrilled until I got the letter from the team saying, congratulations. And here's how much your jacket costs and your costumes and your shoes and the training and the extra. And I was like, Candy, I don't know if you've ever had one of those like out of body experiences where you like watch yourself go through something. And I was like, you're like, that person's having an experience, but that's what it was like. My stomach dropped to the floor. My hands got sweaty because there was just no way. And so what I decided to do was get a job at the mall. For those of you listening, if you don't know what a mall is, just think Stranger Things. Anyway, very American for us to go get a job at the mall. But I worked at one of those carts, I was selling tchotchkes that nobody needed, but it was the 80s, so it was cool. And I get my first paycheck and I'm so excited. I don't have a bank account. So we go into a grocery store where they used to have service desks. It was nice when there was service. Anyway, so they had a service desk and I take my check into the grocery store. And as we're entering, my mom is with my younger half brother and she says, Sarah, the strawberries are on sale. Can we get some? And I'm thinking of the down payment on my, on my costumes. And I'm thinking about those strawberries. I'm like, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. Okay. So go get the strawberries. So I go wait in line. I get my money. I'm so excited. I have cash. I'm going to go take it right to the school and put this deposit down. And I go to like the express checkout to find my mom and my little brother, and they're not there. And I'm like, wait, where? And I'm looking up and down all the aisles, right? And I see them in line with a cart full of groceries. And it's a cart full of groceries I know my mother cannot buy. And I'm looking in the cart and there's like milk, my brother's favorite breakfast cereal. There is, lunch meat and bread, this freaking strawberries, right? And I'm standing there with this money in my hand and I'm like, I can pay for something I've wanted since I was 5, or I can take care of my family, but I can't do both. Yeah. And what happened in that moment is I created a quote unquote truth for myself. I cannot take care of myself and my family at the same time. Well, cut to, I was the first woman in my family to go to university. There was nobody else. I have 65 cousins. So that's saying something. I was the first woman to do that. I graduated from UCLA. I moved to New York City, like the toughest city in the world to make it. And I do. I'm like, come on, baby. And I am now married. I have 2 children and I have this gorgeous glass office and I'm like the head of, a whole department. I'm about to become an SVP. Like, oh my God. And I hate my life. I hate it. I'm miserable. I think I weighed barely 105 pounds, like not great, not great. And I'm sitting there in my office one day and I hear the clock ticking behind me and I'm hearing it tick away the seconds of my life that I can't get back again ever. And something snapped. And I remembered standing in the grocery store that day. And that was the day I got up and quit. And there's like a Sarah-shaped hole in the wall where I ran away. But no, I organized the team and I told them I was like, just, this is how I'm going to exit. And this is how you can replace me. And, I was responsible and put together a plan. But that moment, I remembered that I had decided I couldn't take care of myself and my family. And I was making that real in that I was working myself to the bone because the family was okay, but I didn't matter. And I realized if I'd made that decision at 16, a 16-year-old was running my life. And suddenly it got really easy to unmake that decision. Now, I don't do magical thinking. We all know with coaching comes great insights, amazing things like that. That doesn't mean it's magical. And it took me a long time to untangle. I'm always untangling it, learning more about money, understanding more about how we can have it flow with ease and grace without being cheap or cheesy or not doing what we need to be doing. And, one of the things I love so much about running a business is our opportunity to share stories like this, but also to bring in the people in our lives who participated in our own growth. And what was so amazing is that day in the grocery store, I decided to buy the groceries. And another mom, this fueled my more money in the hands of more women, another mom helped pay for my costumes, right? Which I still want to cry. And in 2019, this is known as my grocery store story. Anyone who's heard me knows Sarah's grocery store. They're like, oh, she's going to tell the grocery store story. Like, it's so great. I so love that. I'm so honored. And I got to bring that mom up on the stage with me. And I was like, you guys have always heard me talk. This is her in real life. And that was so wonderful. One, because she passed away in 2020. And I was so grateful I got to publicly thank her, because I don't think I would be doing what I was doing without her. But also for me, it brought it back home. Sometimes we tell our stories, we remember things, but they kind of become a thing and they don't stay attached to us. And so to share that with her on the stage with me was so powerful. And it reminded me, like, no, we really do come from somewhere, and we really end up on a path because of the other people in our lives who support and love us and the examples they set. And so that was the very long answer to your short question of why this is what I do.
And really well put. And I've just got to say that so much emotion attached to that story, right? So, and
So much.
there are a couple of things, but the last thing that you said about how it's easy to start telling our stories and then they kind of create a life of their own, but then we're kind of not really connected physically. And it's in that power of our emotion, in that connection to the memory and what it meant and how it felt, that's where you get that motivation, right? The motivation to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I'm thrilled that you got to do the dance. I love dance. Dance is a thing for me. And I've got a whole story around that. But the place that I am really curious about is when you said, and I made a decision. I heard the clock tick, 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 and I made a decision. And so in that place to decide and to see your life differently, I don't know if you know quite the answer, but do you know what it was that made that connection? Like, you'd heard a clock ticking for many years, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'd had a career, things were going on, even though I get that career looks great on the outside, candy feels hollow on the inside. I get that feeling, right? But you heard that clock differently that day. You made a different decision that day. And there is where the power was. But what happened just before the decision?
Such that you nailed it. Like, that's the moment, right? That's the moment to zone in on. My daughter was barely 2. And the nanny had called me to say, your daughter really wants to talk to you. And she said, Mommy, I miss you. When are you coming home? And something broke.
Yeah.
And that's complicated for me as a human being, right? And that is that, I was raised in this culture where it's like, you gotta be a mom, you gotta be the best mom you can be, like, just pounded into me since I could breathe, right? And so I had that internal struggle already for me just because of the way I was raised. And I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong. I don't mean to say that, but I think there was probably a heavier pull on me in that moment than maybe there would have been for other people, just because I'd had that ideology implanted so young. But something broke in that. Yes, that ideology was at play, but I think for me, it was also, I'm not okay with this. I don't care what I was taught or what other people think I should be doing. I'm not okay with this. And I think for every woman, there's a moment like that. I really do. I think there's so much pressure on us. I think, pick a fairy tale we were told, right? Get a career, do the things. You're supposed to be a size 2. You're supposed to look like this every day, and your boobs are falling apart and you want to die, but that's okay. Just look great, right? That whole thing that we go through. I think there comes a moment where we're like, F this noise. Like, I'm done with this, right? So I think that was part of it. And I don't know in my brain chemistry if it was, divine intervention, spirit, universe, God, whatever people believe, but I had forgotten about that grocery store moment until that moment. Right. It's just, I had forgotten about it. It's just was my life. It's just what happened. And something popped that right into my memory. And it was like, I told myself I had to be miserable if my family was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And it just clicked. Right. And I do think sometimes we get downloads or it's from something much more powerful than us, but that's the honest answer.
Yeah. Yeah. And agreed about the divine downloads. And then also that sometimes things have to get really crappy for you to be able to hear it, right? Like might have been like, hello for like months, years. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm so miserable. And now you get a chance to hear about that. I was just talking to somebody earlier today about that. And it's like, yeah, that whole, you got to have a breakdown before you have the breakthrough. It's not true, but sometimes we make it true, you know?
I would agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was sick all the time. Ugh. Like I said, I mean, I weighed like $105. I mean, I was like constantly sick, constantly stressed. My chest hurt all the time. But for some reason, that was the penny that dropped, was the combination of my daughter questioning the ideology I was raised around and then the grocery store memory. It was like boom, boom, boom. It was like a couple dominoes all of a sudden. Yeah. But I think you're right. For most of us, we don't change until it's too painful not to change.
Yeah. There's I know we want to talk about sales and why selling and how important it is, but there was something else too. Do you think that there's like in your unpacking and unraveling and in your healing and rewriting, do you think that there was something about your definition of love and how it got kind of tangled in with money as well with the grocery store story?
That is so interesting. I think it probably more than love was performance, right? Just being performative, making sure. I think that's, there's an amazing American author. Her last name just flew right out of my head because I said that, but her first name is Terry, and she wrote a book called Boundary Boss. I don't love the title of that book, but the content of the book is amazing. Terry, yeah, she's just great, but she coined a phrase called high functioning codependence. And that women are, and it's so funny when I'm speaking in front of an audience and I throw that term out, they're like, that's me. I'm like, I haven't defined it yet, but like we hear it and
we know
like,
that's us,
right? you're like, dude, that's so me. Yeah, but just we're so high functioning as women, right? We just can do a bazillion things at once. And the issue is we get rewarded for that, right? It's like, oh, you're amazing. You're like, want to die inside, but you get that you're amazing feedback, and that's the codependent piece for us. And I think there was a little bit of that or a lot of that at work, in that I had gone to work. I made sure there was money. I made sure they were right. And so then that turns into the pride I felt in that. And there's the codependent piece. So I don't know so much if it was love as it was performing.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate you answering that.
Yeah.
So are you okay if we switch to sales? Sales and, especially in this context of sales coaches, women making more money. I'd love to hear what you think about this.
Yeah. I mean, for coaches, oh my goodness, do we not just tangle ourselves right on up in our businesses like mad? It's like, you're like, I am selling my soul. Oh, wait, no, that's just me. Oh, wait, no, that's not even, I'm not even selling me. Wait.
But I'm authentic. And so I really am selling my soul.
It's all me. Right. I mean, boy, do we give ourselves, and it's funny too, because coaches are such beautiful, wonderful, want to make a difference people that we just put ourselves into this pretzel of like, I don't care about the money. And you're like, well, I have to.
Oh, baloney.
Right. Absolute like I need to pay my bills. Right. And I think it's, there's a lot to unpack in just that statement of I can't charge that much for that, or do I deserve that? Those kinds of questions that I get from people who have, as you and I were talking before we hit record, right? Of like these extraordinary human beings who are making a boatload in corporate. They're doing incredibly well. And then they're like, I can't sell my stuff, right? They just like immediately shrink, right? And there's so much involved in that. But I think for coaches, it's twofold because, we get certified. We do all this stuff. We got to get all the pictures and plaster our faces everywhere and like do all the things and look like we're happy every day. Like, okay, not a fan of that, but that's what we do. Right. And it started, the godfather of coaching with Tony Robbins, right? That dude was everywhere. You saw him. He had infomercials. Like it looked like he was selling him. Yep. And that's what it looks like. But that's not accurate. Just because something looks like that doesn't mean that that's real. And this is where I think the most important work we can do actually lies, in that I truly believe anyone will buy something if it helps them get through something faster and with less pain. I mean, just think about your own purchases, right? It's like, oh, well, that's going to help me have beautiful lips. Well, that's going to help me be healthy. Well, that's going to help me get smarter. Well, this certification is going to you faster and less pain, and you'll pay for that. We all do. I mean, we could talk about the backgrounds that you and I have in our beautiful shots here, right? We have books, we have pictures, we have paintings, we have things that matter to us. We paid money for those, right? They brought us joy. There's no pain in that, right? And that's what we pay for. So understanding that your coaching will help someone get through something faster and with less pain can help separate you from the coaching. And one of the things I tell people the most often is you need to look at your business as its own entity. It is not you. It's kind of like being in a romantic relationship. There are the two people who are in the relationship, and there's a third entity, the relationship itself, right? And I'll say to people who are struggling in their relationship, it comes up in every coaching call. It's amazing, right? So struggling in the relationship is the question is, what does the relationship need us to do? If we gave it a voice, what would it say? And just kind of pulling it apart from the personal, from an attack, from like, I can't sell, from I can't ask that of him. Like those things that we come up against, if we can sort of like put it over there for a second and ask it a question. What does the business need me to do? Well, the business needs revenue. Right. Okay. Well, how do we do that? Well, we can probably put together some really great packages, or we could come up like, what's your absolute favorite conversation to have? Like the one that makes your socks roll up and down, right? Let's sell a package just about that. And maybe it's a 2-part coaching session and that's it. Just go sell it, go see, because somebody's going to need it. And when we can start to see it like that, it's almost like you start to remember what it was to be in corporate, if one was in corporate, right? Where they come in and they go, here are the quarterly earnings. You don't freak out. You're not like, oh my God, I'm such a failure. I didn't do it. You don't do that. You go, okay, well, what do we got to do? Well, we need marketing to buck up over here. Actually, we found this ad did really, really well. This one didn't do so well. We don't know why, but whatever. We're going with this. Nobody's freaking out that it's personal. And I think, that's what people say when they say business isn't personal. It's very personal to the purchasing, and it's very personal to the person providing a service, right? But the business itself is not. It's its own entity, and it is there to support, and it is there to help people get through things faster and with less pain. And if we can sort of remember that, it takes all the agita out of it, and then we can get to work on our relationship to money. Which is different, right?
That's a different conversation, right?
Very different. It is. And they're usually entangled. And that's why I do that one first, because at least we can get coaches selling, right? Because it's not so personal now. It's like, oh my God, I can help. This is going to be amazing. And it gets so exciting. Like, isn't it the best feeling, Candy, when like somebody signs up and they thank you? They're like, oh my God, thank you. I can't wait to do this. I can't believe I found you. It's like the best feeling in the world. And you're like, thank you, because this is what I'm here to do. Thank you, And it's different. It's not like, when people really need your coaching, you should be charging for that. And, the example I give people is, like brain surgeons. They don't do their job, people die, right? Pretty high value there, right? And they don't have any problem charging for that. Right. They're like, of course, they're going to get paid for that. Of course, that's their expertise. That's what they're on this planet to do. You can start to objectify it that way, meaning getting it away from you, right? It still feels subjective when you're actually coaching, or if someone's not getting the results you were hoping they would, right? That can feel like that. But the actual selling of the coaching package or of the service itself, think of brain surgeons, think of therapists, right? Think of these people who do things that help people so profoundly because they're really good at it. That's you.
Yeah, I love that. And I really like this idea of keeping the business as a separate entity. And so often it is that first tangle. Like, so a lot of the coaches that I work with, they're newer coaches and they've never been in a sales and marketing role. They've been a professional, or they've been something, or an instructor or a prof or something like that, but they've never actually been selling. And so to get that separation, I think 100% is really key. The other thing that I think that you said that I really liked is that people buy when they want it faster or better, and when they want it a lot, right? Like, I think when I go to the grocery store, if I know, I really, really, really want those lovely organic bananas instead of regular bananas, I don't even look at the price tag. I'm like, those ones taste better. Right. If I'm going to consume, I want something that's going to really make me feel good, right? So we buy something we really want, not just the something that we need. And I think in that place, for coaches to get this that their dream client wants the thing. They want it. So they're kind of in partnership with it there. Do you find that plays into it as well? This like knowing that you're not doing something to somebody, you're doing something with them, right?
Yes. And or for them too.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you're like, I got my certifications. I paid for the stupid website. I did all this stuff, right? So I could show up for you, right? Like that's a real thing. And I think it's so important that we acknowledge that. It's like putting up your storefront. If you sold taffy or something, right? Or chocolates or whatever, right? You would put up a storefront and you don't have a problem selling those chocolates. But for some reason, when it's our service, it can get tangled, like we were saying. I think one of the tougher things for us, I think, in untangling, right, and really starting to see this as a business and not as us, I think what we have to do is remember that person was looking for you or they wouldn't be on the phone with you. Mm-hmm. That person was looking for you or they wouldn't have DM'd you. That person was looking for that. Once in a while, given social media, the algorithm can throw it in their face, but they don't have to like it or comment, right? And so they were actively participating in this. And one of my favorite stories about, can I tell another story?
Oh, sure.
Sorry, Candy. I'm like, I just love stories because they help illustrate.
But
so
they
much,
work,
right?
They work, right?
They
like it really helps me understand it.
I see what you're saying, right? Not some esoteric theory, but like what actually happens. And, in my business, this is again, where I get a little woo. I always say to people, I'm like the most woo-woo, but practical. I'm like, give me your numbers, give me how much you want to make. We're going in the numbers. Okay, now here's what we're going to do, right? So I'm such a combo of those things. But this summer, my daughter had some medical issues and it was like up and down and crazy. And like my schedule just blew up. It was, we're humans. We're all humans. This can happen. And so I said to my team, I'm like, listen, this just needs to get easy. Like we are here to help people. We are here to help these women make more money. We are here to get people out of bad marriages. We are here to make sure people can quit jobs when they want to. We are here to make sure they want to buy designer diapers. They can. Like that's our freaking job. And what we got to do is make sure it's really easy for them to find us. And I'm going to be out a lot. So we got to make this easy. And I said, that's our mantra, make it easy. And I kid you not, the next week we had 5 discovery calls. I'm like, what just happened? Because normally that'll happen if we're running a campaign or right. But I was like, what is this magic? Right. And every single person was like, yeah, these are the varying stories. I just got fired. And I've wanted to do, astrology for as long as I can remember. And I was like, great, come on over. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe I found you. This story's crazy. My phone popped up with a reminder and it led me to a podcast. I don't even know whose it was. Right. And they just I'm like, okay. And then the next one's like, I'm never homesick, but I was homesick. And a girlfriend texted me your podcast. I'm like, okay. It was like easy after easy after easy. Right. So I think there is this moment when we recognize our gifts are needed, back to what you were saying about like, they want that thing. Mm-hmm. And one of them said to me, like, you don't know, I was freaking out. I was like, how do I find a coach? I don't know. They're all crazy. Are they all good? Are they all going to tell me that they can make $1 million from the beach with a ball of twine? I don't, she was like, ah. And then she goes, and then I bumped into you. And I was like, amazing. Do you remember how? She's like, no. I'm like, okay, we're making it easy. And I think, listen, that takes work on our end, right? I've been doing this for 15 years. There are more videos than I don't even know how to count, right? There's podcast episodes. Candy, you know the deal, right? There's so
I do know the deal.
Yeah, it's not like I've been sitting around going, make it easy. You know what I mean? Like we leaned forward and said, make it easy, right? We did our part. We showed up, get the certification, do the things, all the thing everyone is doing. And then we let it run. And
we get prepared. We get prepared, and then we make it easy, right?
And we recognize. I think we recognize how much people want it.
Yeah.
That's when we learn. That's when they want it. They're looking for it. And if you're not there, if you didn't do the work, they can't find you. And that's another thing I think people don't understand about marketing and sales is it's such a form of service. Like, how awesome is it? Like, I don't know. Let's pick a thing. Let's say you're looking for new earrings. You go to Google it. Don't you get so freaking excited when you find the right pair? You're you want to jump up.
And then I'm on Etsy, and then right? And then all the Instagram ads that come up. It's great.
That's right. You're not like, oh my God, these salespeople. You're like, oh my God, I love this. Ooh, I like this one too. Okay, now which one do I get? Right.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing your part in showing up there, you're doing them a disservice because you could be the coach they're looking for. You could be the one that they're like, oh my God, I just need help with, I don't know what to do. And then you show up with exactly what they just said. And that's your job, is to know exactly what they just said. Then you just made it really easy for them. And they're so stinking happy. And that's when you get the thank you messages after a sales call. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to get started. I feel like my life is going to change. And let me tell you something, that jump for your people happens when they make a payment.
Yeah.
I don't fully understand why that happens, but we all know it. You know, when you book a vacation, you're already on it. You know, when you buy that thing for yourself,
that decide thing all over again, right? They've made the decision and they've committed, right? Like decide and commit. Nothing happens without a decision. There was something, I want to just re-roll back to the place where you talked about keeping your business, like remembering that it's a separate entity. Do you have a tip that you could share with the listeners? Like, what do you do to make it a separate entity? I know what I do, but I know that you got lots of good stuff.
That is such a great question. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that before. But I am a numbers junkie. I love numbers, and I'm dyslexic with numbers. So please know that was a journey. This is not a natural thing for me, but I really do love numbers. And the more that I've studied this, because I love to study psychology, along with all of our trainings that all of us do, is that our brains actually need a finite goal. And like you're saying about deciding, the second you do that, stuff starts to move because you've made, your brain goes, okay, got it. And it starts seeing stuff and it starts doing things, right? And part of that is with numbers. And so one of the things we do is we love our business. We take really good care of it. And if you just put up a really simple spreadsheet, and I know some people have bookkeepers, I know a lot of coaches do not. They're like, I can't afford it yet. I was one of those. I know, I understand. Do it as soon as you can, because that will amplify it as well. Now you've got someone else looking at your numbers. They're not looking at you. They're looking at the business's numbers. And that step, that first hire, where you're not paying someone, the business is paying someone, the more that you can start to talk like that and see the numbers and say, okay, so the business brought in, let's just make up numbers. The business brought in $10,000 and we have a $6,000 burn rate. So we have $4,000 of profit. Do you hear what I said? You go, not we.
Yeah.
The business has $4,000 profit, right? And you got to catch it just like that, right? So I did that on purpose, but you got to catch it and go, it's not we. The business has 4,000 extra. What would the business like us to do with that? Well, the business needs the owner to be really happy. So the owner's going on vacation, right? Whatever. I'm making this up.
Yeah,
right?
No, I get it.
Actually, and then you get to know the rhythm of your business. You go, oh, okay. So for us in July, it's always a slow month in July. So I always make sure there's lots of cash for the business to run appropriately in July, right? And I think when you can start to do that and use the word the business, even like this microphone, I say to people like, the business owns that microphone. It's not mine. The business owns it, which is accurate. That's actually factual, right? But we don't think of it like that. The business owns this desk, right? The business bought this desk, not me.
So this thing of referring to it as a separate being just reinforces that. And one of the ways that I like to do that with my little pointy finger is I do a ton of journaling. And so the more that you have that, you could have almost a little internal board meeting. Okay, what would you like? You have a little conversation with the business, and it helps to keep it all separate. Yeah, and all in service of you, the people that you serve, everything, right? Because when women make money, the whole world benefits. I don't know. Have you ever read the book Half the Sky?
Yes.
Gosh. Yeah. I love that book.
God, I haven't read it in a while though. Thank you. I'm going to go read it again. It's been a while. Yeah. I appreciate you bringing it up.
And so for me, that like when you were talking about why women like get more money in the hands of more women, that book personifies that for me.
I think you're right.
Yeah. The more women have choice, the less that they have to stay in these untenable situations, the less. And even if they decide to stay, they know they have the choice to go, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whether it's that town, whatever. right?
Whatever.
To have the choice, to put the choice back in your hands really makes a difference. And so I'll put the link for that book, Half the Sky, in the episode notes as well. But one of the things that they find is that when you put more money in the hands of women, is that everyone benefits.
Yes.
Sometimes their studies were that when you put more money in the hands of men, they went and had more fun instead of investing in the community, investing in the relationship, investing in the things for the children, investing in the wider family. And so there is a shift, right?
Yes. Yes. It's actual evidence. Yeah. And I mean, the last report I read, forgive me, I hate when I can't cite something. I want to stay the Wall Street Journal, but it's been a couple years, but that if you give $10 to a woman, $8 goes back into the community. If you give $10 to a man, $1 goes back into the community. I mean, it is a staggering gap.
Wow.
Right. And it just goes to show why this is part of my mission for sure. But last story, I swear. I swear, right when the Ukraine war broke out, I was giving a talk at, a multi-level marketing organization had hired me to come in and talk about sales. And we're talking, we're having fun with it. And I'm like, I don't have this audience. I'm like, what is happening here? Yeah. And I stopped for a second and I said, do you guys feel guilty about being here learning how to sell when there's a war on? And every single hand went up. I was like, let's talk about that, shall we? Let's talk about that. Okay. Here's why it's important you learn how to sell. Because I cry sometimes. Sorry, I'm going to cry again, but we don't drop bombs on other people's children.
Yeah.
If we had this money, if we were in charge, we would be dropping food, medicine, and water on other people's children. And everybody just I didn't expect that. But it was like this massive, 2-minute standing ovation where we were like, right. I had to remind myself too, when we want to affect change, putting money in the hands of women is the number one way to do that. And I know people are like, oh, Sarah, that can feel so crass. And I feel you on that. I really do. But it's it's the most powerful tool we have access to right now. We can like that fact or not like that fact. And I can totally get that, but it's also a fact. And if we can get that most powerful tool into the most intelligent, the most loving, the most warm, the most brilliant minds that I like to see in female bodies mostly, right? If we were doing that intentionally and with focus, I think the world would absolutely change 100%.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And so if you were just listening to Sarah and you heard that little thought that some people think about, ooh, that's kind of crass to be thinking about that, then you better be looking Sarah up and working on your money mindset, because no man is going to think, oh, that's crass for me to be thinking about money. Money is a tool. It is energy. It is a way that we can create choice and freedom and choose to give and receive, but it is a tool. It doesn't have a good version or a bad version. As long as we keep our mind nice and clean about money, and that it's like, hey, this is a tool. What do I want to do with this tool? Nobody would tell me a hammer is a bad tool. What do I want to do? Do I want to take that nail out? Do I want to pound a new nail in? Do I want to move those little boards closer and closer together? Money is the same way. Do I want to feed those kids? Do I want to do something good for my community? Do I want to put some money aside so I've got a rainy day fund? What do I want to do with this tool? So you guys, if you heard that and you went, yeah, I feel a little uncomfortable, go and talk to Sarah. She can help you.
And just one more thing to leave people with on that note, because I really believe in what you just said, is that money is a magnifying glass, right? So this is where self-trust comes in for women a lot, is that, if you're a jackwagon, money can allow you to be a bigger jackwagon. And if you're amazing, if you are generous and kind and warm and loving, you can be that amplified. And I think it's important for us to remember that. And the other thing about money, I just want to leave people with this, because I think this is important for us to recognize, is it will show you what you have not healed. When you get an influx of money and you freak out, notice that. That is so valuable. You'll be like, oh, scared I'm going to turn into my mom. Oh my God, isn't that so great? You know that. Okay, so let's talk about that. And money really can do that. And I think that's one of the reasons people run away from it often, is they don't want to have to heal what they need to heal in order to hold more of it. And I think that's a really important thing. It's such it's such a gift when we can use it that way. Oh my gosh, it's such like a roadmap to how to make yourself stronger.
That's great. Wow. Lots of stuff. We talked about tons of stuff. Sarah, thank you so much for being here. Before we sign off, how can people find out more about you? Tell us more.
I love it. Well, come on over to sarahwalton.com, and that's Sarah with an H. And you can find me on YouTube. I love hanging out on YouTube. It's one of my favorite mediums. I'm also on Instagram. Both of those are the Sarah Walton, not because I'm the Sarah Walton, but because my name was taken. And then you can find me over at the Game On Girlfriend podcast as well.
Great. All right. Any last words? Anything? Oh, let me just ask you this. Is there anything that needs to be said that you haven't said yet?
Yeah, you can do this.
Yeah.
Everything is workable. Everything is fixable. And you deserve to live life exactly the way you want to live it.
Lovely. Excellent. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. And all of you listeners, thank you as well for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. Thanks again, Sarah. All right. We'll be back and speak to you next week.
Thanks, Candy.
Thanks again for listening today. Please hop on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Also, I would love to hear from you. Did something that I say resonate? What else would you like to learn about? Click the link in the player and leave a comment on the post. This is going to give me great ideas for future episodes so I can help you best. Join me again next week for more coaching, support, and teaching to help you become the confident coach you are meant to be. Hey, it's Candy. Did you know that I have a quiz to help coaches choose their niche? Yeah, I do. It's super popular, and it has been taken more than 20,000 times. This is a fun quiz that takes you about 2 minutes to do, and it will probably give you way more clarity on choosing your best coaching niche. So now, whether you say niche or niche, it's going to work for you. And if you're a coach and you have been stuck in niche indecision, wondering what to do, then you should take my quiz and find out what you learn. You can take the quiz today at coachnichequiz.com. That's coachnichequiz.com. Okay, let's dive into this week's episode.